Hi everyone. Just wanted to make a quick video about the voting for the blue and red button that's going around lately. So what it basically says is everyone in the world has to take a private vote by pressing a red or blue button. If more than 50% people press the blue button, everyone survives. If less than 50% of people press the blue button, only people who press the red button survives. So which button would you press? So this question basically boils it down to, and there's a lot of arguments going down between if you should press red or if you should press blue, and it just basically boils down to like how you would factor, which factors you would factor in while making a decision, right? So normally what happens is most people go for the uh, option that is beneficial to them individually, right? So it's gotta be red, right? But the but the thing is, like, we have a saying that little knowledge is very dangerous, right? So what happens is people nowadays are hearing a lot about game theory and all that, so they basically program themselves to think they're so smart for thinking that the best possible outcome for them is the best possible choice, right? But that's not the case here, because there is no cost that is associated with picking the other option that is just as good as the first option, which which excludes the possibility of killing anyone else, right? Which is the more natural option, which everyone who gives it like a thought would go for, unless you're like one of those red guys who's like, oh, I must pick everything that has to be the best choice, right? But this doesn't matter, because both are the best possible outcomes, and you, by picking red, you're basically creating a risk that doesn't need to be there. Because if you pick red, then there's a chance that anyone who picks blue might die, as long as there's more people than uh, the blue team who are picking the blue button, right? But the risk doesn't need to be there. So basically it all boils down to, if you pick red, you're creating a risk that people who press blue might die. And when you press blue, you're creating a risk that if enough people press red, then you might die. So there's basically that distinction, right? Anyone who's given it a lot of thought will easily pick blue. Why? Because there's no cost associated with it. It's just simply like, if you rephrase and I've seen a lot of possible attempts to rephrase the question, but it just misses something in the middle, right? So the basically like natural rephrasing of the question would be, and it's not 100% as well, right? But it's the best alternative. It's like, if your community is on fire, and if you press the red button, you can save your house. But or there's a blue button where you can press and you can save your whole community. But the same premise applies, right? But if enough people only choose to save their house, then there's a chance that you don't save the community. Anyone who chooses to save the community, they're not their houses will burn down, right? So basically the question comes to, why would you pick to save your house when you can just as easily pick to save the community, right? Anyone with a simple brain would just pick like, okay, I'm just gonna save my whole community, and every reasonable person would choose to pick the save community as well, right? Because there's no cost associated with it. That's the reasonable choice, right? And that's the thing with the red pickers here, right? Because they think they're so smart, they've become arrogant and don't analyze each situation individually, right? So when they're just thinking, oh, it's the best possible option for me, that should be the best possible case. That's not the case here, because since there is no cost associated with it, you can always apply for a broader term, right? Like, if you get $1, and if you can, like, if you press the red button, you get $1, and if you can press the blue button, then everyone gets $1. The natural response is that might as well press the blue button, right? Let everyone have $1 each, right? But what the red guys are saying is like, you have to press the $1 because it's the best for you. But that doesn't need to be a case, because there's no cost associated with it. Like, everything changes if you say that if you press the red button, then basically the same question, right? But if you press a red button, it's good for you. But if you press the blue button, like, let me come back to the same community question, right? If you press the red button, you save your house. But if you press the blue button, you save your whole community, right? But if we include in the question that if you press the blue button, there's like a 10% chance that your house may not survive, right? Then the question changes dramatically, and then the red guys are correct, because who won't pick their house, right? Even if there's like 5% or even 1% chance that your house may burn down while you're trying to save the others, that becomes like a different scenario, because there it your altruism comes into factor. It comes like, how much are you willing to risk to your property and yourself to save others, right? Then it becomes another question for morality. But this is not the case as that, because there's no cost associated with it. So the obvious answer should be blue. Anyone who's thinking red is thinking smart, but not smart enough. Like, they think they're so smart because they're picking the best case for them. They can't even think that there might be options where it's good for you as well, but it's good for others as well. So that becomes the greater option. And it should be obvious, they're just like overanalyzing themselves. Not even that overanalyzing, right? Because it's like a simple thing. But it's just like, nowadays it's just the culture is that way, right? So it's basically that. Like, if you put in factors, like if you want to make it more morally questionable, or have some altruistic, check people's altruism level, then you have to include some cost factors in there, right? So if you say, like, if you have to press the a blue button, then it costs you $10 or something, like. Or if you, like I said previously, if you press the blue button, then there's a 10% chance, 5% chance, or 1% chance that you might not be you might be harmed, or you might not get the benefit, right? Where it becomes a matter of like, how much are you willing to risk yourself to save others. But this is not the case as that. Like, if everyone presses blue, it's just like everyone survives. Like, just imagine the best case scenario here. Like, if everyone presses red, everyone survives. If everyone presses blue, everyone survives. If one person does not press blue, and if one person presses blue and everyone else presses red, then the one person dies. And if everyone presses blue and one person presses red, everyone survives. The one person who presses red does not die, because he doesn't need to die. Like, there's no cost associated with it, so why would you pick red? Because there's clearly a better option, right? Anyone sane enough, anyone who partakes in anything societal level, in who lives in a society, like, he would have to pick blue. But nowadays it's just like, people are thinking, oh, they're so smart, they're just dumb. To be honest, they're just dumb. That's a dumb take, that you have to pick red. Just because it's beneficial to you doesn't mean you have to create a risk for everyone else, because there's no risk. Just the common societal, if you have everyone make a sane choice, then there's basically no risk for you at all. And it just eliminates risk for everyone else as well. Like, say a kid presses a red by instance, right? It's his favorite color, he just presses red. If you press blue, the kid survives. If everyone decides to press blue, the kid survives. But if a kid presses blue and everyone presses red, then the kid dies. Like, anyone who's unfortunate to press blue, he'll die, because the people in red can't think just above their individual level, right? Because normally that is the case, because in normal world, in real world, there are costs associated with it, right? If you don't pick what's best for you, there will be some cost that you have to factor in. But this is not the case as that. So yeah, it's basically should be a blue case, no question. I don't even know, like, anyone who says red, it's just like they're thinking they're so smart, and they're thinking they're making the best individual choice, which they are. But it's like, they're not smart enough to think beyond that. Like, you could think that's the best possible thing for you, but there's easily another option that's best for everyone else. And with no cost factored in, you have to press the one that's better for everyone else, unless you're just like selfish, right? Because why, if you could press a button that would give just everyone $1, then the other button where you could place only give yourself $1, right? Why would you not press one where everyone gets $1, or everyone in your friend group gets $1, right? It's just like a simple thing. Like, are you just like looking out for yourself, or are you gonna look out for everyone else as well? Because if as again, I'd like to repeat that there's no cost associated with it. Everything changes when there's a cost there. So yeah, that's basically what the option would be. Blue is the only choice.